Alrighty, bottles of Rayhaan Aquatica today. Thank you to my friend Jay for letting me borrow this. It's really nice that I have friends that, we share this love of fragrance together, and we're able to, sample, share fragrances, just, not have to go all in on all the purchases that we would potentially make versus, sharing with one another. So thanks again, Jay. This is a recreation of the original Virgin Island Water Creed. I believe people say it's the one with the blue cap. Very expensive at this point. I'm sure that means it was reformulated. And I've never smelled the newest edition as well. So I won't really be going off the, comparison to the original per se. Just more so giving you the attributes of the fragrance. And I will say it's very impressive. Going for this coconut sugary base really helps amplify the fragrance for a longer period of time. And then, of course, you do have what I mainly get is like lime and ginger for the top to mid. Just, because of that concept of coconut pushing a little bit more than some of your other fresh fragrances. Oh my gosh. The atomizer is crazy. Rayhaan's got some impressive atomizers. Okay, we got it on strip first, then I'll put it on skin. This is actually my first time on paper smelling it too, so I would say the zing of the lime is a little less apparent, which is actually surprising to me. I feel like normally I get more top nuance on paper versus on skin. Damn, I'm choking myself out here. Paper, really, it's more subdued than I had expected. Not a bad or good thing, just something to keep in mind. But yeah, you get all of the elements too. I get less ginger for sure, but lime coconut is very apparent. And the longer this is gonna dry down, I'm sure we'll get into that, that sweeter, I guess sugar cane is really the accord they call it. But yeah, sugary accord for sure. I know some people in their review just discussing this fragrance, or maybe the OG as well, get a kind of a boozy accord as well. So maybe something like a light colored rum, or just something on the clear to white side of alcohol. But for me, I don't per se get that as much. Everybody's nose varies a lot. So I do want to touch on the notes, but I do want to make it as objective as possible and not say that what I'm smelling is what is the correct thing, or what other people are smelling is what you should be smelling. So really there's a good amount of variation there for sure. But regarding things that we can talk about objectively, like I said, for the fresh style of fragrance, this lasts very long, easily going to be pushing 6-7 hours for sure. Pretty good projection, I would say at least for an hour, maybe hour and a half. And I think this is a good indicator just because I am in a drier climate in Colorado and it is winter. So the fact that it's doing that well for the circumstances I'm in, I would say that's a pretty good sign. My friend did buy this bottle like for Black Friday essentially. So he's used a good amount of it and it's been able to sit on the shelf for a bit. I know some people who bought the bottle off rip and reviewed it right away got way more of a synthetic feeling lime and citrus. I saw certain videos saying, you get that like pledge or lemon cleaner smell. And I wouldn't per se say I get that, but again, my experience may be different with a little bit older of a bottle now. I would say if you're smelling the scent up close, like to your skin or the tester strip, the lime can come off more synthetic and more potent for sure in its sharpness. But again, most of the time we're not wearing a fragrance right to our nose, an inch away from our hand. So I think that's something to keep in mind too, that the way you're testing a fragrance should try to emulate the way you're gonna wear it every day. And occasionally, I know like I do it too. You go in for a sniff here and there, but not off rip, right? Not off of initial spray. So just keep those in mind. Really when you're testing fragrance, just emulate how you are gonna actually use that fragrance as best as you can. I know it can be kind of weird when you have a sample. Sometimes it doesn't feel like that's as doable. But just try your best. I've been trying to do that as well, just getting more acclimated and comfortable. But yeah, just a good tip with any fragrance that you are, in the market for and you just want to sample for. Alrighty, let's go skin real quick. Yeah, definitely initially ginger lime is so much more apparent. Like I said, if you don't smell it up too closely, I just really like how everything is culminating together. For me personally, I do enjoy this one more on skin as well. I think everything is just more radiant, whether that's the top notes or going further down the pyramid. Everything just feels like it's coming off of me better. Not necessarily like regarding projection, but just more like the depth of the fragrance just feels more complete to me. It's also really interesting to hear people say this gives them pina colada vibes, because really there's no piña, there's no pineapple. So I'm like, it's interesting. I get the imagery for sure, you know, like an island vacation, an island beach for sure. So I think that's maybe what's going on, is like the association of how pina colada fits those settings. But I try to be a little careful because I don't want to mislead people in saying pina colada, because that literally does have pineapple, versus this has been, you know, amped up in the lime and ginger essentially, and focuses around that coconut accord. So in the 3 days that I've worn it, one of the days was in office, and I would say that both men and women, my coworkers, both agreed that they liked this fragrance. They were smelling it, you know, they smelled it on me, but they were also curious, you know, they sprayed a little bit as well and just tried it on their skin. So it's nice that with some of my coworkers, they're, you know, kind of comfortable discussing fragrance with me. And I think it's nice to get the opinions of coworkers, because I think they could be more honest in their criticism, but at the same time, they give a nice perspective of, you know, what feels okay to wear in an office, you know, something not too overwhelming. And yeah, everyone seemed to really like this one. So you could keep that in mind. I know this is like a quote unquote summery spring fresh fragrance, but the way it pushes through, I really think you could wear this anytime, anywhere. You know, you should do that anyway though, right? You know, don't let anyone tell you what you can and can't wear and when. But I'm very impressed from a performance aspect as to how often you could wear this and what temperatures and such you could wear. But yeah, really to wrap it up, you know, I think you can't go wrong with this. A lot of people are saying that the recreation of Virgin Island water is really done well. This is an iconic fragrance in the fragrance community, so I think people are really excited to see a mainstream replication of this. You know, there are like Alexandria's version and some other like smaller recreation inspired by houses that have made this, but to see it from Rayhaan is another step forward, I would say, in the fragrance community. They've done that with other fragrances too. I think they were the first to do Le Mans Elixir as well from JPG. So, you know, sometimes they just hit it off the mark. They're like kind of the pioneer of certain inspired buys, and I believe they're going to be doing that with a few of their new releases too. Jungle Vibe, they already did that with one of Dries Van Noten's fragrances. So yeah, I do like that they're pushing the envelope in terms of the brand. You know, it's cool to see you get like 6 to 10 different versions of one original fragrance, and you can kind of pick what are your most important parameters that you're going for. You know, are you going for closest to originality, increased performance? Some are like even more like toned down or more versatile in terms of how they approach that scent type. So, you know, there's a lot of ways to go about it, but I like that Rayhaan is often the one to take the first step. And, you know, for me, I actually don't have any Rayhaan, so this is a brand I should probably check out more. Nothing feels off-putting to me in terms of price to performance, price to quality. You know, of course you need to have certain expectations with buying a, you know, semi $40 fragrance. Not everything's likely going to be perfect, but I will say for what it is, I think it's very hard to achieve more than this without, you know, narrowing that margin of profit even more. As always, I advocate sampling before you get an entire bottle. I would still say the same thing for this. As easy as it is for me to reach for it and a lot of others, that doesn't mean that's necessarily the same for you. Especially coconut, that can be a divisive note. So I do want you to just double check this is something you like. That's pretty much it for this review. I've been going on a lot of tangents, so I'm kind of trying to keep it a little more brief, but give you enough description. All in all though, for those people who do enjoy this type of fragrance, I would see this being an easy reach for you. Works in so many occasions. I think you could dress it up or down as well. You know, this gives a very laid back, calming effect, but I could also see this being such a nice addition to a very well-dressed person for, you know, maybe you want that extra spark of inspiration or uplifting nature, you know, when you go to like some kind of formal event or something. So definitely do what you want, what you will. I think it's going to work out great for you if you end up buying them. And then really it's just nice to explore another creation that, you know, doesn't inspired of a Creed product. You know, I'm still not that familiar with many of the Creeds, so this is a nice way to at least get somewhat familiar. You know, I'm not going to assume how close or not it is to the original, but, you know, Creed has its ups and downs, if you will, but this is definitely, I would say, an up. It's a very unique approach to a fragrance. I hope we continue to see that, you know, with many houses, whether they are lower or higher on the tier of bestsellers or being world renowned. You know, they're really pushing perfumery, well, of course, you know, making money as well. That's important as well for them, but there's a fine balance for sure in something artistic in terms of keeping, you know, your following happy and satisfied with what you're releasing. I'll see you guys in another. Appreciate your time. Let me know how you feel about Aquatica or the OG Virgin Island water. I'm curious to hear your thoughts. This is Patrick. I'll see you guys in another. Take care.